What's up, everybody? It's Free Association on the Sportsnet Podcast Network. I am JD Bunkis, humble podcast host, and I am here with Donnovan Bennett, insider, journalist extraordinaire, and recently found out he doesn't have a Lou Marsh vote, and I just want to say, let me be the first to start the campaign for Donovan for Lou Marsh. Donovan for Lou Marsh vote. I'm going to cut through the normal BS today. I would like to tell you that.
Nice change.
Merry Christmas, early Christmas present to you.
Appreciate that.
Nothing. I'm getting right into it. Why? Because of why? Kawhi. He's returning to town. We're going to do a bonus episode on Thursday that we're going to try to release and react off of the Kawhi Leonard game. But you and I, we were just chatting before the show, and I think that there's a lot to dissect when it comes to Kawhi Leonard. And this kind of feels like officially closing the book on Kawhi. The organization's going to have everyone attempt to get to their chairs 30 minutes before the ball game. There's going to be a different kind of ceremony for him. He is going to get his championship ring. He is going to be received by the fans. And my first question to you, Donnovan Bennett, is it's pretty simple. How do you think the Kawhi reception is going to go? Do you think it will change in game? Do you think it will be polarizing? And should it be the way that you think it's going to go?
I mean, I think he should get a long-standing ovation, and I think they should periodically give him ovations throughout the game because his contribution in 1 year is greater than anyone else in the history of the franchise.
Yep.
Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think he'll get an ovation pre-game, but I think there will be a segment of the fan base. I don't know what the percentage is, but there will be a vocal minority that is vocal with their displeasure. And it's easy because we're removed from him leaving right now. But if we remember when he did leave, there were people who were in their feelings about it. It took a long time to get the decision. It seemed as if the Raptors were a distant third place, if they even placed at all, because when the decision was made, it was not just breaking news Kawhi Leonard going to the Clippers. It was breaking news Kawhi Leonard's going to the Clippers with Paul George. Mm-hmm. And then the reporting started to come out that the Raptors got a call, not from Kawhi, not from Uncle Dennis, but from Sam Presti saying, hey, if you really want Kawhi, you better trade for some of the players that are on my roster. And so people, rightfully or not, were really upset at the time. And I do think that it's not just going to be this long-lost son that is coming back home and he's going to be welcomed.
This isn't going to be the DeMar game. Like, that's what you mean, where it's just the feelings are overwhelmingly only one-sided. There was no person in the building that night that was mad at DeMar DeRozan. He was traded.
Yeah,
he was welcomed as a...
People were mad at DeMar DeRozan when he was here.
Right. Yeah,
they true. Were okay with it because the player they got in return was better.
How do you still attend quite a few Raptors games, or when did you stop really attending them as a fan? Like, do you still go every once in a while to be a man of the people and sit in with family and listen and watch?
If I get my hands on tickets, I'll go. Yeah,
because to me, the part of the old Raptors experience when DeMar was here was getting in your seats, getting your beer, watching the Raptors. Music a little too loud, hard to have a conversation, but the conversations you would always hear is upset about DeMar DeRozan and his long twos or the field goals that he took. You're right. People were mad when he was here. It didn't happen when he left. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a loud standing ovation. I think that there will be very few people who boo at the start when he gets his ring. And to be honest, I think the people who boo in those situations are looking for attention. I think it's like a weird thing that you want to do where you go there and you're trying to be that guy or that girl who boos Kawhi in that moment. But once the game starts, I'm kind of torn on this. I feel like it's not a sign of disrespect to necessarily boo Kawhi when he touches the basketball. I've always kind of thought that that's almost the tribute that you show the other team's best player. He's not going to get a "you suck" chant or "we don't need you" chant. I wouldn't think anyways. I think that maybe even when he goes to the free throw line, there's going to be some nice chants. It's going to be more of a friendly boo. Like, is there such thing as a friendly boo? Because I feel like that's what could happen here.
No, and he's not going to get a nice chance when he goes to the free throw line.
Okay.
Look, people didn't boo PJ Tucker.
You don't think he gets one MVP chant at the free throw line?
No, in Toronto.
Over under one MVP chant for Kawhi.
If anything, Pascal Siakam is going to get an MVP chant just to make it seem like, well, I know you left, but I got a next mate. Who
Will
I
there
like
be a
even
"we don't
more.
need you" chant?
No. That takes
Because
too much.
everyone's like, we do.
That takes too much coordination. PJ Tucker didn't get booed when he was here for a minute. People loved him, and then he left in free agency when he could have stayed
money.
For less money because people were indifferent to PJ Tucker.
Yeah,
because there's a bunch of basketball fans who didn't really know the value that PJ Tucker brought. Everybody knows Kawhi and how important he was, and that's why I think not everybody, but there's going to be a segment of the population who is in their feelings about it, not just because he left, but because of where he left and ended up.
This is where my feelings are a little conflicted, because if I could afford tickets to that game and I could be there, I would think to myself, I want to celebrate Kawhi Leonard. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank him for the most spectacular run this franchise has ever seen. And I was thinking about this actually while I was coming into work this morning. To me, DeMar DeRozan showed the Raptors loyalty. Kyle Lowry showed the Raptors toughness. Vince Carter showed them excitement, entertainment, exhilaration, brilliance. But Kawhi Leonard showed them greatness. Kawhi Leonard showed Toronto Raptors fans what it's like to be great at basketball. And they've never come close to ever touching what he touched while he was here. And like, there's evidence to prove it for the rest of time when it comes to this franchise, because they're always going to have that patch on the jersey as a reminder for everybody who sees whoever lines up at a free throw line or whoever gets a camera shot of them in the back of their jersey. You are going to see evidence of Kawhi Leonard's greatness as a Toronto Raptor. But when the game turns on, I think a fan should be rooting for the Raptors, not for Kawhi Leonard. And I think it's kind of fun to cheer for him missing a shot. I think it's fun to play a part of, without being angry. I think there's an in-between here. You don't have to be an angry fan who's just like really pissed off and bitter that he left. I think you can just be someone who's supporting your team, rooting for his misses, cheering when he clangs one, having a "we don't need you" chant, and then hopefully like the Raptors leave that one with a win. And again, that you leave Kawhi Leonard with the feeling of, which he won't have, but like, I miss it here. I miss these guys. These are great fans. And that's part of what's great about them, is that they support their team.
Well, I mean, I think you're going to cheer for any Clippers misses, but how you handle this situation is not a representation on the player, in this case Kawhi. It's an entirely representation on the fan base, you as a fan base. And we can make this cross sports. The Islanders, who lost John Tavares, whose team actually was pretty good after he left, unbeknownst to anyone at the time who thought they were going to be terrible for a while.
Well, also because they didn't really have any fans that showed up for any game other than Tavares night, but yeah.
But how over the top they were on how upset that they were that he left, let everyone know, including him, oh man, you really love me. And in fact, you have nothing else but me to celebrate. So this is you, in a way, celebrating me. But to me, it's the exact opportunity to show the exact opposite. Kawhi Leonard could not care less how he's treated when he comes back. And nobody likes to get booed, but we saw in San Antonio, where he was there for a while, where he won multiple chips, he didn't seem fazed. He didn't care. Yeah. And so this, and how this is handled, will be a representation on who the Raptors fan base is as a collective. And if they show appreciation, if they show respect, if they're very classy and graceful to him for what they did, forget about what Kawhi thinks, the rest of the league will be like, we get it.
But do you think fans should cheer him on for a game when they're playing the Raptors, the home team?
No one's saying they should cheer them on.
Yeah.
But if he gets a loud ovation throughout the game, if he doesn't get booed throughout the game, I think people will get it. Look at the way that Kyrie has been treated in Boston, the way LeBron was treated when he went back to Cleveland. And we brought up the sort of equivalent hockey example. If the Raptors go the exact opposite way that KD was treated when he went to Oklahoma City, where things got legit tense, like on racial lines tense, I think it will say something about the fan base. And let's also remember that one of the narratives, as unfair as it was, one of the narratives out of that finals was, you really are going to cheer Kevin Durant when he's hurt? Like, we get that you love the sport, but you're willing to go that deep? That's not just media members saying it. Warriors players were saying it. And obviously that was like a quick moment and a flash in the pan, and it's not representation on who the fan base is as a collective. But if trending on Twitter it's videos and memes of Raptors fans with signs saluting him. I think it will reinforce what we already know about the real Raptors fans.
Yeah, I think that's going to... I'll also put it this way. I don't even think it's on the table to see anything close to the Kyrie stuff. The Kyrie stuff was just truly ugly. Like going around town and putting signs up that say coward and taking it outside. To me, my vision or my belief is that as a sports fan, you do not have all the liberties just because you pay for a ticket. And we've started to learn that with the advent of like cell phone videos and the abuses that players have probably endured for way too long when it came to like what people would say to them just because they were sitting within earshot. But I do think that part of the experience is being able to have fun and express both sides of the aisle where you celebrate a player, but you also boo them within the confines of, hey, this is part of the fun atmosphere here. Like, I don't think it necessarily needs to be ugly. I don't think it's on the table, what I was originally saying, the coward stuff or the cupcake stuff. I don't think that thing happens. I think it's going to be good vibes for the most part in that building. People are going to celebrate Kawhi Leonard before the game. It is going to be unanimous, loud celebrations for Kawhi. But when the game starts, I think it flips a little bit, but it never gets to an ugly tone. The thing that made it ugly with KD was, and I don't even think it was that bad with Kevin Durant, like at least from what I remember of it, I thought the cupcake thing was like, meh, like that was just a weird thing that they did.
So do you remember Draymond Green and Iguodala like getting into it with fans in the first couple rows?
But that stuff is, to me, obvious, like small portion of people that suck. And like the stuff that Kevin Durant's mom had to endure during the game, those are awful. No one's ever going to condone things that become personal. That's what I mean, is that as long as you don't make things personal, as long as you keep your chants and your boos to strictly like cheering for Kawhi Leonard missing a shot, chanting, well, we don't need you, chanting MVP for Siakam if he gets a stop, like those things I actually think are great. That makes going to a sporting event fun. The other stuff that's personal attacks is obviously ugly. You can't defend anyone who does that kind of behavior. It's gross.
But if you were booing,
yeah,
good-hearted,
you can have fun booing.
Good-hearted or vitriolic. If you were booing,
yeah,
and you are wearing Raptors championship pack merchandise,
you can be wearing Raptors championship pack Kawhi Leonard jersey,
and you have a fun guy T-shirt in your closet. That is illogical. The guy who's
robot brain
single-handedly
fanatic.
The guy who single-handedly has did the most for you to allow you to wear that championship merchandise.
Yeah.
You're actively booing him.
But everyone in the building understands that. That's the way it goes, is that you switch teams and now we root against you, and that's the way that it goes. Before you appreciate, during the game you appreciate. No one's going to leave that building thinking, I hate Kawhi.
But you root against every visiting player, right?
Yeah.
The Canadian players come back. If Jamal Murray misses a shot, people cheer because that's good for the Raptors, assuming they get a defensive rebound, which has been a bit of a struggle.
I think, what is it? They say the best revenge is living well. And I think that if you're a Raptors fan, you live well and you throw down. You're a little bit of a boo for Kawhi.
But that's not living well. It's petty.
Yeah. No, I don't think it is petty. I think that's being a sports fan. I think that's fun. I think that there's ugly sides to booing, and I think that there are some that get, like, again, saying things to players, like when Russell Westbrook endured last year in Utah. It's like, yeah, ban that guy for life. Never let him even sniff the inside of a stadium again. But just booing someone because you're playing a part, you're playing the part of sports fan, you're doing your job kind of in the building that evening. Or if you choose not to, and your way of celebrating Kawhi is to strictly make it celebratory, that night is about you celebrating the championship, cool. I think there is some nuance to it. I don't think that it's black or white, that if you choose to boo Kawhi in the game, that you're a bad fan who doesn't appreciate what he does, or that if you cheer him on, that you're betraying the team or something along those lines. I think being a sports fan is complicated, and that we all have different parts that we play, and I don't like putting Raptors fans under one umbrella of how they act to a game, because I think this one is complicated, and that's where I was going to go. The next thing is,
I don't think it's that complicated. Don't boo the guy.
But not to you.
He's great.
To me, it is.
He gave you a ring.
I know, but
he's the best player in the history of franchise.
But to me, it is complicated. To me, if I was in that building when Kawhi touches the rock,
would you boo Jose Batista or Josh Donaldson?
No.
Did you boo Matt Sundin when he came back? So why would you boo Kawhi?
Actually, I think that Donaldson, you don't really boo in baseball. Like you boo,
This is even more illogical.
Yeah.
If you're in an arena, you can boo, but if you're in a stadium, you can't.
Once again, I do not apply logic to sports fandom.
Well, clearly.
To me, those are oxymorons. Like, I think that you follow your heart and you do
I think
what
if
you
you
do.
just boo, you're a moron.
I
We don't
wouldn't-
need the oxy.
I wouldn't boo, but what I would absolutely do is I would cheer every miss loudly. Every time he bricks one, I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs with euphoria. And two is that, yes, when he goes to the free throw line, if a chant broke out that was a "we don't need you" chant, I'd be like right in it. I'm just saying, like, that's how I celebrate my sports fandom.
But here's the thing.
And I appreciate
You're lying
everything. No, I'm
because
not.
you do need him. Because if
I know.
because if you got a push alert
course.
that said Kawhi Leonard has requested a trade back to Toronto, you would celebrate so hard.
Dude, I know,
So
of course.
so who are you trying to prove? Because you know
No
who
one. I'm
also
trying to have fun that night,
You know
and
who
that's how I'm
also
having fun.
knows that you need him?
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah, I
like
know.
he knows how valuable he is.
Okay. Let's go to this then. It's way too early to tell. Let's play it's too early, but based on the evidence that you have in front of you so far this season, do you think it's as cut and dry as we once thought it was that Kawhi Leonard made the correct basketball decision?
Yes, I do.
And
I
that
don't.
is-
I don't think Kawhi wants a mulligan whatsoever.
No. I'm just asking you, like, let's take geographical location out of the equation here. This isn't about personal because, yes, Kawhi absolutely does not regret his choice. I'm just asking you, based on the rosters, based on the conferences, based on what you've seen so far from both of those teams, if you could if Kawhi Leonard is in the middle of the line, and you are playing the game of, who loves you more? I always think of the movie. What was the movie with the monkey who steals? There's a little girl, she loves the monkey. Then there's Danny DeVito, I think, and he tries to steal the monkey, and he's evil. He makes it steal, and then they play a game of who loves it more. And
Sounds like a great
Danny DeVito's character, I think, is DeVito. He cheats because he pulls like some snacks out of his pocket, and he's like, oh, and then the monkey goes to him, and the girl's crestfallen. Take out California, which is the snacks. That's cheating. Just the roster for roster in the monkey test. Whose team would he choose?
Well, I can't even answer that question because the best basketball decision was the Los Angeles Lakers. That was the best basketball decision.
Again, let's just play between these two things. You keep trying to move the goalposts in this thing.
Well, no, that's what happened. Those were the options.
I know, but let's just play between these two. If it came down to these two and the Lakers didn't exist, like this scenario, play this one scenario for me. Whose roster do you like more with Kawhi? The Clippers or the Raptors?
Probably the Clippers.
I hate to agree, but I do. And I watched the Clippers get smoked by the Bucks the other night, and I thought to myself, I cannot believe that Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors beat this team with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know if Giannis was as good a few months ago. Like, his progression is so incredible. But to me, when I was watching that game, they just look like entirely different players. And I know it's a one-game sample, but Kawhi was struggling to get his, and Giannis was just an animal. Like, he got to the bucket at will against the world's best defenders. Kawhi got one steal and one dunk that made the highlight pack. But there was a stretch of play in the third quarter where Giannis Antetokounmpo just decided, I'm going to dunk on 5 straight plays, and then I'm going to hit a 3, and the game's all of a sudden going to be a 20-point blowout against Kawhi and Paul George and the full arsenal of Clippers. I still think that the Clippers' decision was the better choice for this sole reason. Paul George is still a much better player than Pascal Siakam, and the compliments that surround them, I don't think they're quite as good, but I don't think the drop-off is steep enough for me to look at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't him choosing the Clippers over the Raptors as presently constituted in early July. It was him choosing the Clippers, a playoff team who pushed the Warriors, over the Raptors that were aging. It was him choosing the Clippers and taking Paul George with him.
Yeah. I will say this. I think that the decision is less obvious now. I think at the time you saw, well, he's going with Paul George and he's going to go with Lou Williams and he's going to go with Montrezl Harrell, and they gave up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's brilliant, by the way, and who's, because absolutely could be in the conversation for best Canadian basketball player on the planet, like in very short order. That you looked at it originally and you said, yeah, you can't fault Kawhi. This is an aging core. We're not really sure about what the other pieces are. Some guys got hot. They signed Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. Who knows? That if I look at it now, just in a vacuum of the two teams, my case for the Raptors would be this. You don't have to go through LeBron. Step one, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they're not in the Eastern Conference. And as incredible as Giannis Antetokounmpo is, Kawhi has already beat him in a 7-game series, and he's beat him with that cast. And they did have Malcolm Brogdon that time. And I would have to think that a healthy Kawhi and the Raptors against Giannis and Chris Middleton is still a more friendly draw than beating LeBron James and Anthony Davis 4 times out of 7.
I don't think he cares. You have to beat him at some point.
Sure.
Kawhi's not in a place where he's looking for runners-up medals.
It's true.
He's only going to be defined by championships, and he's gone head-to-head with LeBron in a finals and beat him. We know next to nothing about Kawhi and what he thinks about. Mm-hmm. But if I had to guess, I don't think that was on his radar whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like, again, if he wanted to, he could have, as you said, joined LeBron James. He knew very well when he decided that he was taking on the challenge of becoming a rival with LeBron James. Something that I think Christmas Day, that's going to be, I think that has the potential to be a thing that comes out of it. Like, the first game of the season was Lakers-Clippers. And these two teams the Clippers smoked them. The Lakers had basically taken a bunch of guys off the scrap heap. It was not a very competitive game. I'm very excited for that Christmas Day game to see, these two teams after being together for a few months and what it's going to actually look like when they go to toe-to-toe. I think that we're going to get that. But that would be my case number 1. Case number 2 is just that there would still be, I think the pieces, the way that they complement Kawhi, still make more sense than the pieces, the way that they fit around Kawhi in Los Angeles. Like, Lou Williams needs to have the ball in his hands to really be his most effective self. Same with Paul George. And I think that with the Raptors, everybody gets to play a little bit more of a bit role and a secondary role around Kawhi that still meshes a little bit cleaner. Do you agree or no? Just based on what I've seen so far. Like, Lou Williams needs to have his time. Paul George needs to have his time. It still feels like the Clippers are kind of trading off who's going to be the offense at what point, rather than it feels like a cohesive unit more like it did in Toronto or could have in Toronto.
I mean, I think those guys get their time when Kawhi either is 1, resting, or 2, not playing. Mm-hmm. And Lou and Trez being arguably the best pick and roll tandem in the league is a great 8-minute run where you have the benefit of keeping 2 all-stars off the floor and not losing anything in games. So to me, there isn't a pecking order issue with the Clippers. Paul George clearly knows that he's the number 2, and he clearly saw when he was with Oklahoma City that if Paul George is your best player, you're probably going to lose in the first round. Mm-hmm. But if Paul George is your second best player, you're probably going to be contending for a championship.
Paul George so far this season has looked like the more complete and healthy offensive player since he's been in. I'd say that's the other kind of piece I would look at if I was Kawhi Leonard, is that you still had the medical staff here. You were comfortable with Alex McKechnie. He got you right. Does Kawhi Leonard look himself to you? Because when I'm watching Clippers games, a lot of times I'm seeing more of the Kawhi we saw in the Bucks series than the Kawhi we saw in the Sixers series.
I mean, he doesn't look 100% healthy, and I suppose another year removed from his original injury, that's concerning. But there were large stretches last year when he didn't look great, when he looked like he was dragging his leg. He, to me, is someone who is just trying to run a consistent pace throughout a marathon and then sprint towards the end.
Yeah, it's so hard to judge his regular season.
And so we saw him take his game to another level in the playoffs. And so does he look explosive right now? No. Mm-mm. If I'm a Clippers fan, would I be worried about it based off of the year he had last year? No.
Yeah, I'm looking at his field goal percentage right now. So far this year, he's shooting only 44% from the floor. Last year, he shot 49% from the floor. His three-point shooting is what's been really drastic. Last year, 37%. This year, 33%. And that's on the same amount of attempts. You're right. That's exactly the way I would describe how he looks sometimes, is like dragging the leg a little bit. Doesn't really have the explosiveness. Like I said, it really does feel like the majority of this season he has looked like the version in the Bucks series where he's capable of elevating his play. He's still making big-time plays in big moments. Like if you saw the Celtics game, which is still one of the highlight premier games of the year so far, Kawhi Leonard ends up making the blocked shot at the end of the game on Kemba Walker. He shows his explosiveness. He gets out and makes a play when he has to. But there have also been moments where I've just looked at him and it doesn't look as good when he's settling for shots when they're not dropping, and the three-point shooting has been a bit of a drop-off.
Yeah, I mean, he's still giving you 25, 8, and 2 and 2 steals. And when you look at what he's going to have to do to win another title in the West, forget about how tough Western Conference Finals with them and the Lakers might be. There's no Orlando in the first round. you're going to see Minnesota in the first round.
That's a good point.
Or Dallas in the first round, or Utah in the first round. You're going to see real teams. So he is going to be guarding Wiggins or guarding Donovan Mitchell or guarding Luka from round 1 on. And so I especially think that he's just looking to get to the playoffs with a top 4 seed and then looking to turn it up another notch.
So I want to take a break. But before we do that, I had kind of said to you that I don't know if it felt this way for you, but everything felt so rushed that I haven't even kind of come to grips with all of my Kawhi feelings. Like you said that when he left, some people got in their feelings. That's exactly the opposite of what I did. I think I mentioned on this podcast, I was out with friends. I was doing a university reunion, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning when the bar was shutting down, and someone just leaned over me and was like, yo, Kawhi's gone. I was like, this can't possibly be real. And the only moment that I can kind of ascribe it to is when the Leafs blew that lead against the Bruins, and when the Seattle Seahawks blew their lead when the Seahawks lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots, where I just didn't even want to look at my phone. I didn't want to know anything about sports for a few days. The Kawhi thing hurt because you really thought after he flew into the city that he was going to stay, that he came here for one purpose and one purpose only. And we saw the Jalen Rose tweet, if you recall that, which was that his sources were telling him Kawhi Leonard was going to stay. It went from this euphoric championship to this unprecedented in size and scope parade in the city. The city shuts down for it. It's Kawhi Leonard and the ha 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 coming full circle at the parade, to Kawhi Watch, to the helicopters, to all of a sudden in the middle of the night on a weekend, Kawhi Leonard's gone. And then he's on the West Coast, and the Raptors start pretty hot with their young players, and the conversation becomes more about these guys than about what if Kawhi. It's all felt very rushed. And the more and more I think about it, like the more crushing it is kind of to think of what this roster could have been and what this title defense could have been with Kawhi Leonard, and how sorely, they are going to miss that top tier talent, considering I went through, the Raptors have played 10 games this season against teams that I view as the top end competition. They've only won 3 of those games.
But if you said that to me coming into this year, I wouldn't be surprised.
I know. It's just, do you feel the same way about Kawhi, that it was rushed and we didn't get any closure, that this is going to feel some way like it's final? Like, what do you think you're going to feel when you see Kawhi Leonard in that final moment? Like, what are you going to remember? The championship run?
What am I going to remember?
Yeah, what are you going to kind of think back on when you reflect on your own feelings? Tell me from your robot heart.
This was capital from a line of credit. Like, it wasn't yours. The only reason why you got Kawhi Leonard in the first place is because he was injured and because he had a injured relationship with his team. And so you got him on a discount for a short period of time. Another reason why you got him because he was a pending free agent and wasn't going to stay in San Antonio. So that's almost like saying, well, I paid back my line of credit, but I wish that money was mine. Well, it never was yours in the first place. You only had it based on the circumstances.
But it felt like mine, and I bought really nice things.
Yeah, you bought a really nice thing. You bought a championship ring, something that no one can take away. And so at that point, it was mission accomplished. Anything else would have been gravy. If he came back, that would have been a benefit. That would have been residual interest. But I definitely didn't expect him to stay.
Did you ever buy in for a moment? Like when you found out it was him stepping off that airplane, that the MLSE jet stayed for him. Did you not think for a moment, as people were rushing to Yorkville to try and catch just a glimpse of Kawhi Leonard, that you in your heart, you just let that thought creep in to your brain for a moment?
In fact, I thought that entire circus around it was hurting more than it could potentially help. If it even mattered. It may not have mattered. His decision could have been made up, and he could have been coming here to say goodbye in person. But I didn't think he was ever going to necessarily come back unless Masai was able to woo him with what else he could do around the roster, because I'm someone who loves my home, and so I rate and respect how much he loves his home. And the 2 other options, it's not as if he had to go to New York and rebuild a franchise from the ground up. He had 2 ready-made options where they could be competitive. And as we eventually found out, the Clippers were even more ready-made than we knew.
What's your favorite Kawhi memory that is not the shot?
Ha 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 ha.
At the parade? Yeah, that's pretty damn good. It's the thing about that is it's not my favorite parade moment. My favorite parade moment was watching Gasol from the street chug those bottles, and then the video of him next to Trudeau saying to Fred, I think it's to Fred, he leads her, he's like, I'm drunk. It was like, we know, we saw you do all the drinking. I think it's tough for me to think of those like Kawhi things, but like there's so many of them. Like the fun guy right out of the gate. I'm a fun guy. And then the laugh. God, like I miss Kawhi. I wish Kawhi was still here. But if I was going with non-dunk, it would be the final minutes of the third quarter against the Bucks. That was just that turned the series around. And it was like that when I talked about guys touching greatness, that will just always kind of be what I think about Kawhi is that, oh, here we go. Things are hopeless. And then you have someone with that ability to just elevate you out of just the complete abyss and win a game for you against one of the league's best teams. Like it's incredible to think about how excellent he was for that playoff series and how the only comparables are Michael Jordan and LeBron James when it comes to finals runs where guys dominated in that fashion. Like Toronto has one of those things forever because of Kawhi Leonard. So I'm excited.
And his treat for that is he gets to get booed. You're welcome.
During the game, before the game, standing O, we love you, Kawhi chant. Do you think Kawhi still eats for free?
No.
There's no Kawhi and died?
No.
Kawhi walks into Cactus Club and they're charging him.
Correct.
Harsh. That to me is harsher than the booing. Quick break and then hit a couple of Raptors related notes. Big week for the Raptors. Weird but big week for the Raptors. Just as always, just a weekly reminder to please subscribe to the Raptors newsletter. It's new this year. It's a weekly newsletter from our NBA editor, Stephen Lung. It's original content, opinion, analysis you can't find anywhere else, and it's delivered right to your inbox. Go to sportsnet.ca/newsletters. Get the URL. It's sportsnet.ca/newsletters. I almost read the part that I'm not supposed to read. They put the things in brackets that you're not supposed to read. That's a little pro tip for you future broadcasters out there. All right. Two quick pieces of business to wrap up this show. What do you want to start with? There's Masai is back in the news with Howard Beck and Michael Grange, or Norm Powell development. How do you want to start this off?
I mean,
Dealer's choice.
we don't have to spend too much time on either.
Okay.
We can start with the Knicks.
So, according to a piece that was put out by Howard Beck of Bleacher Report about a little under a week ago now. Like, I think it came out on Saturday or Sunday. The piece says there's a common denominator in Knicks mess, and it isn't another failed coach. And spoiler alert, what the common denominator is another pursuit of Masai Ujiri. And throughout the piece, Howard references something that is different from the report that Michael Grange had later, which is that MLSE had attempted to make a contract offer, an extension to Masai Ujiri during this past offseason. But both cases basically outline that the Knicks are once again going to do this for Masai Ujiri. And the thing is that the selling points are familiar. My question to you, Donnovan Bennett, is after reading these two pieces, did you come away feeling any differently about the Knicks' odds of landing Masai Ujiri? Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time we talked about this, I was highly dismissive, and you took the fear as very, very credible.
Yeah, and so
Unchanged.
to answer your question, after reading the pieces, do I feel differently? No, because I always felt like the Knicks were a threat. The only reason why the Knicks are not a high-level threat is because James Dolan has been the owner for 20 years, and in those 20 seasons, they have the worst record in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And they are now on their sixth coach in 7 years, and that lack of stability makes them a dumpster fire. But it's not about James Dolan. It won't be if he leaves. It'll be entirely about that market and what he can do. And so that's why I feel like New York specifically, in a way different than other franchises who he's been tied to, would be something that interests him. And the other thing is, name me an executive in sports who has more leverage than Masai Ujiri?
None.
There isn't one. And
I mean, maybe there's a soccer guy that you could tell me about.
In North American sports.
Yeah. Actually, Bill Belichick, if he wanted to leave.
I don't even know if that's true.
Oh, come on. Bill Belichick leaves. He's not at least on par with Masai.
Depends on you. If you believe Seth Wickersham's reporting, but like Robert Kraft is in love with Brady allegedly, more so than he's in Bill Belichick. I just am trying to figure out what the number is that Masai could come up with and walk into Larry Tannenbaum's office and said, "You need to match this number, or else I'm leaving." I don't know. I don't
Austin Powers too outdated?
For me, yeah.
It's like $1 billion. Like, I can't do it. I couldn't bring myself.
I don't know. I don't know what that number is. And maybe Larry would say, okay, well, Masai, wish you good luck in your future endeavors. Congratulations, Bobby Webster. You have the keys to the car. That would also assume that Masai's not taking Bobby Webster and Teresa and Dan Tolzman with him wherever he went. But
leave something, Masai. Jeez.
That is
take the shampoo bottles from the hotel.
That is why I think it is a real threat, because I don't know, other than more money, I don't know what else MLSE could do to make him happy. And there are things that New York has, not the Knicks, New York has, that the Raptors, Toronto, Canada just can't match.
My feelings have changed. I was highly dismissive of the Knicks because they've been down this road before and they've come up short. And when I was reading Grange's piece, which if you haven't read, go to sportsnet.ca. You can find, I think it's still, actually I shouldn't say it's Grange's pinned tweet, but yeah, you can find it. Just Michael Grange, Masai Ujiri, sportsnet.ca. You'll figure it out. The thing that changed for me was reading the section on the challenges and how Masai Ujiri will not shy away from a difficult task. That yes, he is someone who has gone from an unpaid scout who slept on people's floors to, as you put it, arguably the most coveted executive in North American professional sports today. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought of this. When you're 100 years old, because you're going to live that long, because you're a very healthy guy, and modern science is going to take us there, who's the executive that you're going to remember most? It's going to be Theo Epstein. Like, you're going to remember Theo Epstein's name. Everybody knows Theo Epstein. Theo Epstein won with the Red Sox, and then he won with the Chicago Cubs. And Masai Ujiri has this unique opportunity in front of him. The Knicks are losers. You can go to the Lakers and they're as big. Winning with the Lakers matters, but you're never going to be bigger than Jerry Buss, right? Like, that's never going to happen. Jerry Buss is going to be the Lakers figure that people remember. You're never going to be bigger than Red Auerbach. You're not going to go to the Celtics and be bigger than Red. It's just not going to happen. History's not going to look at you that way. But you can go to the Knicks and you can be that. You can be on the pantheon of sports executives that are remembered. If Masai Ujiri went there and somehow elevated that team out of the doldrums, his name lives forever. And I know his name lives forever here in Canada and here in Toronto, but internationally and in the States, like a city in New York, which I think, or like the state of New York, has a population as big as Canada, right? Like, it's at least close, or it's just a little bit bigger. To have that kind of an opportunity to cement yourself as one of the biggest executives in professional sports history, like, I don't think that you can diminish that opportunity. I would say that the safety net, if I'm a Raptors fan, and the good side of looking at it is this. James Dolan is an idiot. And that mushmouth is going to get into a room with Masai Ujiri and have to be ultimately the one that he's going to convince him that he's not going to meddle and he's going to let him do his things and he's not going to interfere with the medical staff or the basketball operations or the analytics department, or that he's not going to pull the plug on something with Masai Ujiri's long-term vision. And to me, that's a very comforting thing, knowing that JD in the straight shot is going to be right there to blow this thing for the Knicks.
Isn't that like the exact argument that I laid out 3 weeks ago? And you said staying in Toronto was more of a challenge?
I mean, can I accept that I can be wrong about something? Can I just admit to being wrong if that's what I said? Like, I don't remember what happened to me 25 minutes ago, bro. I do a 3-hour radio show every day. I just dump and flush, dump and flush, dump and flush. You've got the vault. This is just this little pea pigeon brain that's floating around there, just trying to grab a little morsel of something every once in a while and then goldfishes it out.
Yeah, I don't think he leaves, but yeah. I think he thinks about it.
Yeah, he's definitely got to think about it. Do you agree with, like, if you're if you're a Toronto sports fan and you happen to be a fan of the Raptors and the Leafs, you can't be someone who for years has used the argument with the Leafs of, well, it's the mecca of hockey and you get to be in the limelight and you get to be a legend forever. And what if you won with the Leafs? Like people, you'll never buy a drink in this town again. It's like, no, you know this from being a Toronto Maple Leafs fan if you're listening to this. Like some markets, they just matter more. And New York, as moribund as it's been for the last, I don't know, since Patrick Ewing, whenever that was, you have to be able to admit that applies to other sports too. If it applies to Toronto Maple Leafs, it still applies to New York Knicks. And if you don't think that, you're kind of being hypocritical. Last thing, unless you have another final parting shot on that. Last thing is, again, you just told me about when I was wrong. And I'd like to admit when I'm wrong. I'd like to admit that again. And I'd like to say that you were right. And that history generally reflects well on your takes. A few weeks ago, we talked about Toronto Raptors players that have impressed us with Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka out of the lineup. And my choice, I believe, was Terrence Davis or Chris Boucher. Your choice was Norm Powell. And I was kind of surprised by that. And I was like, really, Norm Powell? Norm Powell recently has had some pretty eye-opening play. And I know that there are still inconsistencies with him as a player. There are still some moments where he'll frustrate you with some shot selection. But I think we've been kind of treating Norm Powell like the middle child this season, where we overlook the accomplishments because of the eldest, which is, I know Siakam didn't come in the league earlier, but it feels like he's the golden child. He's the firstborn child. And he's right there with Fred VanVleet. And then kind of the babies are Terrence Davis, right? We're all excited and enamored by the new piece that's Terrence Davis and even to a lesser extent Ronnie Hollis Jefferson. And Norm's kind of existing in the middle here, where recently, like you go through his game logs, this guy's basically been like an easy 15 a night for the last 15 games. And he's had, 33-point performance against Orlando where he just elevated them. He had the 23 against Miami. And there have been noticeable moments this year where when the Raptors offense has been stuck and it hasn't had any fluidity and they've looked to someone, and Norm Powell has been the safety valve and he's been an effective one. Once again, shooting the three well, once again, getting to the basket well, still a devastating player in transition. And I just think that we've overlooked Norm's accomplishments a little bit. Not we, I have, and you were correct.
Yeah, when you just look at this roster in terms of manufacturing points, specifically in the half court, how many players do they have that can put the ball on the floor with both hands, 2 dribbles, get in the paint, get to the rim, finish above the rim when they get to the rim, and can shoot both above the break, in the corner, off the dribble, and catch and shoot threes? There's really 2. There's Norm Powell and Pascal Siakam. Those are the only guys who can do all of those things. OG Anunoby maybe, but his off the dribble 3-point shooting I don't think is there where you're that confident. He's more of a catch and shoot player at this point. Those are the guys. And so when the offense looks stuck and it's we're going to pass it to you and hope you bail us out, oftentimes it's either Norm Powell or Pascal Siakam who's asked to do that.
I guess the question is that a long-term viable type of solution for a team that's expecting to win? Like, do you think he's good enough to be, let's say a third option on a winning team offensively? Like, can he actually end up filling a role of, the league's best 6 men? Like, can he get to this categories of a Lou Williams or to a Jamal Crawford? Do you think that's on the table for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that's missing is the consistency,
yeah.
Right? He's now, at this point in his career, getting consistency in run, consistency in play. So now it's just a matter of consistency and having that level of efficiency night in and night out.
How many years has it been since Norm Powell was a rookie? Is this his 3rd season? This is his 4th season, right? So that means we've been doing free association together for 4 years. Because I think that one of our first bits was you building a shrine to Norm Powell. And now you can... The shrine has been lit. The shrine has stayed lit in the closet.
I understand the grind.
Yeah, you do. I hope you understand that it really helps us when you leave a review of this podcast on iTunes. You leave a little 5-star, you leave a little message that I will see, and then I will relay to Donovan. As always, I will read that review. Share it. Do us a favor. You see this thing on Twitter. You see it on Instagram. Share our podcast if you enjoy it. And we will talk to you for a quick bonus episode on Thursday after, what are we calling Kawhi's return?
Kawhi's return.
Return of the King? No, that's LeBron. I should have thought of this. Anyway, I'll think about something, and I'll tell you on Thursday. See you later.